If you've spotted a cockroach in your kitchen, there's a reliable rule of thumb that pest control professionals use. For every one you see during the day, there are likely dozens more that you're not seeing. German cockroaches, the small, fast-moving ones with two dark stripes behind their heads, spend the vast majority of their time in harborage areas. That means inside wall voids, behind the refrigerator motor, under the stove, inside cabinet gaps, and around pipe penetrations. The ones you see out in the open are usually there because the hidden population has grown large enough that the harborage is crowded. This matters because it explains why the most common response to a roach sighting, grabbing a can of spray and treating the surfaces you can see, rarely solves the problem. You're addressing a small visible fraction of the population while the rest of the colony continues reproducing in places the spray never reaches. In this video, we're going to walk through a complete step-by-step approach that actually targets the hidden population, including a simple homemade bait that roaches carry back to the colony themselves. This is the same multi-method strategy that professional pest services use, and it's built on one core principle. You have to go after the colony, not just the individuals you can see. Before getting into the treatment protocol, it helps to understand what makes German cockroaches specifically resistant to the standard DIY approach. First, they reproduce very quickly. A single egg capsule, called an ootheca, contains between 30 and 40 eggs. A female German cockroach produces multiple capsules throughout her life, and nymphs reach reproductive maturity within a few months. This means that even after a significant initial knockdown, the population can recover rapidly from surviving egg capsules and juveniles. Second, they're thigmotactic. They prefer tight spaces where their bodies are in contact with surfaces on multiple sides simultaneously. This is why they concentrate in places like the thin gap between the back of a cabinet and the wall, or the warm space behind a refrigerator's compressor. These harborage sites are protected, dark, warm, and close to food and water sources. Standard surface sprays don't penetrate into these areas effectively, and when sprays are applied broadly, they can actually scatter roaches from one area to others within the structure. Third, German cockroaches can develop aversion to bait products over time. If a bait formulation is used repeatedly and the colony builds up a preference away from it, a behavior known as bait aversion, the product stops working. This is why rotating bait formulations and combining methods is important for heavy infestations. Step 1. Inspection and mechanical removal. The first step is a thorough inspection to map where the population is actually concentrated. Do this at night with a flashlight, since German cockroaches are most active after dark. Pull out the refrigerator and check behind the compressor area at the back. This is consistently one of the highest activity spots in a kitchen because of the warmth the motor generates. Check under the stove, inside the drawer beneath the oven, under the dishwasher, under the sink around the pipes, and inside any cabinets where droppings have been visible. Droppings look like small, dark pepper specks or coffee grounds, and they accumulate heaviest in areas of high activity. Look for egg capsules along edges and in corners. These are small, brown, capsule-shaped casings about a quarter-inch long. If you find them, that's direct evidence of active reproduction in that location. Once you've mapped the hot spots, use a shop vacuum to remove visible roaches, egg capsules, droppings, and debris from all of those areas. This provides an immediate reduction in the active population and also removes the debris that roaches feed on. Empty the vacuum directly outside after each use. Roaches can survive inside the canister and escape back into the house if you leave it. This mechanical removal step matters because it clears the heavy concentration from harborage sites, which makes the bait placement in the next step significantly more effective. A harborage with fewer competing roaches and less available food will draw remaining individuals toward your bait faster. Step 2. Sanitation. Sanitation is the step that most people acknowledge but underestimate in practice. German cockroaches can sustain themselves on extremely small amounts of food, crumbs under an appliance, grease residue on a stove burner, a thin film of food on a cabinet shelf. As long as those resources are available, roaches will be less motivated to seek out and consume bait. Store all food, including pet food, in airtight metal or hard plastic containers. Do not leave dishes in the sink overnight. Clean up any spills immediately. Empty trash cans daily and use lidded bins. Wipe down stove burners, drip pans, and the area beneath the stove regularly. Fix any plumbing leaks under sinks or around dishwasher connections. German cockroaches require moisture to survive, and a slow drip under a cabinet is enough to sustain a significant population. Dry conditions reduce their ability to thrive even if some food residue remains. The practical reason sanitation is so important is this: bait works because roaches are attracted to it and choose to consume it. If there are abundant competing food sources, they'll eat those instead and ignore your bait. Thorough sanitation removes the competition and pushes roaches toward what you've placed. Step 3. The bait. Homemade and commercial options bait-based control is the most effective method for German cockroaches because it takes advantage of their natural social behavior. When a roach consumes a slow-acting bait, it returns to the harborage and continues behaving normally for a period of time. During that time, it grooms itself and shares food with other colony members through a process called trophallaxis, direct mouth-to-mouth food transfer. The active ingredient travels through the colony this way, reaching individuals that never directly encountered the bait, including nymphs deep in harborage sites. This is why the speed of the kill matters. A bait that kills too quickly doesn't allow time for the poisoned roach to return and interact with the colony. Slow-acting agents like boric acid are specifically effective because of this delayed action. The core recipe demonstrated by pest control professionals for this type of application uses 3 ingredients: peanut butter, honey, and boric acid powder. Peanut butter provides a protein and fat attractant. German cockroaches are strongly drawn to both. Honey adds sweetness and moisture. Boric acid is the active ingredient, a naturally occurring mineral that acts as a stomach poison. When roaches ingest it, it disrupts their digestive system and kills them slowly over the course of a few days, allowing enough time for colony spread. The mixture is simple to prepare. Combine 1 to 2 tablespoons of creamy peanut butter with about half a tablespoon of honey and mix them into a paste. Then stir in approximately half a tablespoon of pure 99% boric acid powder until fully incorporated. The result is a pliable paste that can be loaded into a standard plastic syringe, available at most pharmacies for precise application. The syringe is important here. You're not spreading this bait on open surfaces where pets or children might contact it. You're injecting small dots and thin lines into the specific locations where roaches are traveling and hiding: the inside edges of cabinet hinges, gaps along baseboards, cracks behind the refrigerator, the space around pipe penetrations under the sink. Each placement should be small, roughly the size of a pea. The goal is many small placements distributed throughout the harborage areas, not a few large ones in obvious spots. One detail to pay attention to: use pure boric acid powder, not borax. Borax is a different compound, sodium tetraborate, commonly sold in laundry sections. It has different chemistry and isn't formulated for this application. For more severe infestations, or when you want a faster-acting option alongside the homemade bait, commercial gel baits like Advian are the professional standard. Advian uses indoxacarb as its active ingredient, which is also slow-acting and highly palatable to German cockroaches. It comes in a pre-loaded syringe and is applied in the same way: small dots in cracks, crevices, and harborage areas. Results are often visible within a few days with a well-established infestation. If you're running bait over multiple treatment cycles, rotating between different active ingredients, switching from a boric acid-based bait to an indoxacarb gel, for example, reduces the risk of bait aversion developing in the population. For heavy infestations where eggs continue hatching over several weeks, an insect growth regulator (IGR) like Gentrol is a valuable addition to the bait program. IGRs don't kill roaches directly. Instead, they disrupt development, preventing nymphs from molting into reproductive adults and causing deformities that interrupt the breeding cycle. Used alongside baits, they reduce the rate at which the surviving population recovers between treatment cycles. Step 4. Treating harborage areas with dust in addition to bait. Applying a fine insecticide dust directly into void areas where roaches nest provides a complementary residual effect. Boric acid in powder form can be puffed lightly into wall voids around pipe penetrations, behind cabinets, and into the space behind refrigerator kick panels using a hand duster or bulb duster. The key word is lightly, a very thin, barely visible layer. Roaches pick up the dust on their bodies as they move through the treated area and ingest it while grooming. If the layer is too thick, roaches detect it and walk around it. Diatomaceous earth is an alternative dust option with low mammalian toxicity. It's a fine powder derived from fossilized algae that works through a physical rather than chemical mechanism. The microscopic particles damage the waxy outer layer of the roach's exoskeleton, causing dehydration. It needs to stay dry to remain effective, so it's best suited for enclosed voids rather than areas under sinks where moisture is likely. When treating outlets and electrical boxes, which are common harborage sites, turn off power to those circuits before removing the cover plates. Apply a minimal amount of dust around the interior perimeter. Step 5. Exclusion after treating active harborage sites. Sealing cracks and gaps removes the protected spaces that the next generation of roaches would otherwise move into. Use silicone caulk to seal gaps along baseboards, around pipe penetrations under sinks, along cabinet edges where they meet walls, and in any cracks in backsplash grout. Silicone is preferable to latex caulk in kitchen and bathroom areas because it's moisture resistant. Expanding foam can fill larger gaps around plumbing and then be trimmed flush after it cures. This step won't eliminate roaches that are already present, but it reduces the available harborage for new population growth once the treatment begins working and becomes important for preventing reinfestation, particularly in apartments where roaches can migrate from adjacent units. A realistic timeline for a moderate to heavy German cockroach infestation treated with this protocol is as follows. In the first week, you'll see a significant reduction in visible activity as the initial vacuum removal and bait begin working. In weeks 2 through 4, continue seeing some nymph activity as eggs that were present before treatment start hatching. This is normal and expected. It doesn't mean the treatment isn't working. Reapply bait every 1 to 2 weeks as it dries out or gets consumed, and continue monitoring with sticky trap glue boards placed in corners and under appliances. Full control in a heavy infestation typically takes 4 to 8 weeks. The traps are your measuring tool. Place them in active areas from the beginning and track whether the number of catches per week is declining. When you've gone 4 or more consecutive weeks with no catches and no visible activity, that's a reasonable indicator that the infestation has been eliminated. One of the most common reasons this approach fails when people try it is stopping too early. Roach eggs are protected inside their capsules until they hatch, meaning the population appears to recover even when the adults have been eliminated. Consistent bait reapplication through the full hatching period is what closes that gap. The other common reason is inadequate sanitation. If competing food sources remain accessible, bait consumption will be low and results will be slow. Aerosol sprays and bug bombs are worth addressing specifically because they're the most common first response to a roach problem, and they're also one of the more counterproductive approaches for German cockroaches. Broadcast sprays and foggers do not penetrate into the harborage areas where roaches actually spend their time. What they do accomplish is forcing roaches out of their current hiding spots and into other areas of the structure, which can spread the infestation to rooms that weren't previously affected. They can also make roaches less likely to interact with bait that's placed afterward, since the chemical disturbance makes them more avoidant. If a flushing spray is useful at all in this context, it's as a targeted tool, applied directly into a specific known harborage to drive roaches out so they can be vacuumed up immediately. That's a different application from broad surface spraying, and it's combined with immediate mechanical removal rather than left as a residual treatment. To summarize the full protocol, begin with a thorough nighttime inspection and shop vacuum removal from all identified harborage sites. Follow with deep sanitation to remove competing food and moisture sources. Apply boric acid or commercial gel bait in small, numerous placements throughout all harborage areas using a syringe. Treat accessible voids with boric acid. Seal cracks and gaps with silicone caulk. Monitor with sticky traps and reapply bait every 1 to 2 weeks through the full treatment period, which will typically run 4 to 8 weeks for a significant infestation. Each element of this protocol serves a specific function. None of them works as well in isolation as they do together, and consistent follow-through over the full treatment timeline is what separates the approaches that actually resolve the problem from the ones that only reduce it temporarily. If you found this useful, subscribe for more practical, research-based pest control content. We'll see you in the next video.